All right, let's go ahead and get started on our project. The first thing we want to do is we want to work non-destructively, so we're going to duplicate our layer twice. The quickest way to do that is with our keyboard shortcut, which is Command or Control and the letter J, and I'm going to do that twice so I can duplicate the layer twice, and then I always have the original layer intact. Let's go ahead and turn off our top layer here. We're going to select the second layer. We're going to go up to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur because I want to blur out the background from here. And then in the other layer, we're going to make a selection and apply a layer mask. Now, as far as the amount of blurriness that you want to apply is entirely up to you. Anywhere from +5 to +50. 50 might be too much. So it's just a matter of experimenting and deciding on which amount of blurriness that you prefer. I'm going to just do something around 36 for now, and we'll just go with that. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and now we have a blurry background. All right, now that we've applied a Gaussian blur to this layer, let's go back to this layer and turn it on and make a selection. So what we're going to use is one of Photoshop's new selection tools called Select Subject. And to get started with that, we need to select either the Quick Selection tool or the Magic Wand tool. If you use the keyboard shortcut, which is the letter W, it's going to select the last tool that you used. Once you have that activated, you're going to see the new selection tool right here called Select Subject. And to use it, all we have to do is press on this little button here, and then Photoshop will analyze our photo in order to find out where our subject is, and it's automatically going to create a selection around that subject. How cool is that? I love it. All right, so this is a great tool for starting the process of making selections. It's not perfect. As you can see, it didn't select the bokeh, and there's some other areas along the edges as well that it didn't select. So we need to add or remove to the selection as needed for the particular image that you're working on. And to do that, I'm going to use one of my other favorite tools, which is the Quick Mask mode, and I can activate that with the letter Q. And now the red mask represents the area not selected. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on the bokeh here, and we'll go ahead and add the bokeh to the selection. And to do that, we're going to start off with selecting our brush. With the letter B, I'm going to use my right bracket key to make it larger. And then I'm just going to click in the area that I want to add to. Now you may need to increase or decrease the hardness of the edge depending on the image that you're working on in order to refine the edge so it's not pixelated. So I'm just going to go in here with a smaller or larger brush, and I'm going to switch back and forth between white and black with the letter X in order to add or remove as needed. So white is going to add to the selection, black is going to remove from the selection. Doesn't have to be perfect right now because we're going to further refine our edge selection to feather it in just a little bit better than what we maybe can do with the brush. Although we could do it perfectly with the brush, it's going to take a lot longer versus doing it with one of our other tools. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. But first I want to go around the edge here and make sure we have everything properly selected. Now I am navigating around the image by holding down my space key, and that allows me to navigate to the hand tool, which will allow me to move around the image as needed in order to continue working on different parts of it. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect because we are going to feather the edges just a little bit in order to remove some of this pixelation around the edge of our subject. Now this side of the image I'm not as worried about because we're going to use another selection tool in order to deselect this entire area because I do want to keep the original depth of field that I captured in camera. So let's go ahead and get out of Quick Mask mode by pressing the letter Q again, and then we can see that our new selection has been applied to the areas of the edges we just refined. So now let's go ahead and zoom out and grab our marquee tool with the letter M, and this is going to allow us to add to our selection. But to do that, you have to use another keyboard shortcut to add to it, which is the Shift key. If you hold down your Alt or Option key, that's going to remove from the selection. Since we want to add, we're going to hold down our Shift key, click on the outside of the document, and then drag to the right. And I want to align it right along the edge of where the brick ends, right here. And then that's going to add this entire area to our selection. All right, let's go ahead and refine the edge of our selection so it's not as pixelated. Let's go ahead and zoom in so we can get a better view of what's going on as we make our adjustments. Let's go back to our quick selection tool and click on this option here, which is select and mask. And this is going to bring up some other options for fine-tuning our selection. And the one that we want to work on is the feather slider. And this is going to feather the edges to make it less pixelated and blend in the edge of the selection so it's much more natural. So I'm going to go about +2, and then what we need to do is output the selection to a layer mask. So select layer mask, click OK, and then you're going to get a new layer mask added to that layer, and then as you can see, the background is now blurred out. It's not perfect because even though we did refine the edge with the feather slider, it wasn't perfect, and we still need to go in and make refinements to our edge in order to blur in the background much more naturally. So what we're going to do is make sure that our layer mask is selected. We're going to grab our brush tool again, and now, as you know, white adds, black removes, and if I click in this area, we're removing the layer mask in that area, and we're bringing back the details of the background. So as you can see, there's kind of a halo effect right here, and that's because the feathering from the selection wasn't perfect and it's not blending in the foreground and the background very naturally. So with black selected for the foreground, I'm just going to go along the edge of our subject in order to blend this in much better than it currently is right now. And if needed, go ahead and adjust the hardness of your brush in order to feather the edges just a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and go around our subject here and make our adjustments. And like I mentioned before, it's not going to be perfect because in camera is the way to go, but when you can't do it that way in camera, then you have to use your skills in Photoshop in order to manipulate the photo in order to get it the way you wanted it. All right, we're almost done. I'm going to go ahead and finish up this part right here. And then I just want to show you another quick tip in order to show you how to make this look a little bit more natural. All right, let's take a look at the before and after. And to do that, we're going to turn off the middle layer. And we can see that the image looks much better than it did before, and our eyes are not competing with our subject in the background. Now, it may be a little bit too intense, the amount of blurriness that I applied during the Gaussian blur step. So what we can do is we can tone it down a little bit. And to do that, we're going to select both layers. And then we're going to group them with Command or Control and the letter G. And then we're going to lower the opacity of that group. And then we can bring back some of the detail from the background in order to make it look much more natural versus having it set at 100% opacity, and that's entirely up to you and your creative vision. All right, so that's it for this particular project. Go ahead and grab this image, apply what you learned, post it in the Q&A section for feedback or just to show off your new skills. Thanks for listening and have an awesome day.